Hey, so we're back. I'm really sorry that it's taken us 12 months to release another video. It transpires that the return to work and living in a COVID-riddled world was quite a bit harder than we expected. And so this video, while it was recorded in June 2020, has sat on the to-do list since that date. As such, a lot of the material in it is, well, it's a little dated. I was proved right on a few predictions at the very least, but just bear that in mind. We're hoping that we can keep up a schedule of releases now that we have a better idea of the demands on our time that our work actually has. But for now, I have this video that we recorded 12 months ago and I hope is still relevant. You're also probably going to get quite a shock when we get to the next video because I have a lot less hair now. Enjoy!
Hello, and welcome to episode 9. I am rapidly running out of fingers, and I hope you're enjoying the series so far. Like I say, this one is a bit more of a convoluted route to its eventual point, but it is my earnest hope that as we progress through this one, you'll kind of get where we're going with each one. Maybe not quite so obviously as the first series, but we'll see. Who knows? The lowest common denominator is a mathematical phrase that has entered our cultural lexicon to mean the approach of appealing to the maximum number of people by creating the most inoffensive or least discriminatory product. This, on the surface, seems like a reasonable approach. The more appealing and less discriminatory my product, the more people who will see it, and the fewest people it excludes. This relationship between specificity and accessibility is sometimes called the paradox of appeal. The broader I make the appeal of something, the more people will consume it, and the deeper I make it, the fewer will consume it. Take YouTube for an example. There is a reason that the most consumed videos on YouTube are under 5 minutes and solidly in the entertainment category. The easier and less challenging something is to watch, the more people are going to watch it. This applies to more than just pseudo-intellectual YouTube content, however. Politics in the age of information has been governed by this duality. How many short, punchy messages have you read in the last few elections? Make America great again. Get Brexit done. For the many, not the few. These slogans, on a good day, should briefly summarise their creators' politics or stance on an issue. They are quick ways of conveying to voters what parties or candidates see as their key arguments. On a bad day, however, and let's be honest, how many good days have we had recently, they can be used to manipulate and essentialise information. Let's give our NHS £330 million a week, springs to mind. They can become a tool to reduce policy to little more than a goal, without a conversation on how or if that goal is even possible. We've seen this a lot in the last few years, from more right-wing or nationalistic parties especially. It is a technique that allows them to heavily imply a policy change without a discussion of how, thus making whatever means they use to achieve that goal justifiable according to the original statement. Let's take an example. If I explained to my neighbours that our bins were getting too full, I could make a proposal that read something like, once per week, at an allotted time, in an allotted place, we should take all of our carbon-neutral waste and burn it. Please read the terms and conditions below and adhere to the new restrictions. That statement takes a lot of effort for people to read and take in. Should another person on my street simply say, burn your waste, that message is seemingly clearer and yet also more vague. It could result in people burning unsafe materials in unsafe places. But what does that matter if the person saying it won the argument? A recent example of good and bad soundbites can be found in the semi-conflicting UK messages on coronavirus. The original statement was, stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. This is an excellent statement. It gives a clear message, calms people's worries about the healthcare system, and gives a real and achievable goal for what will happen if we follow the rules. Save lives is a big motivator. This was then changed somewhat randomly and confusingly in the worst public address in recent years to stay alert, control the virus, save lives. This is a terrible, terrible series of statements. It's vague in its intention, leaves people with this feeling of anxiety over what they should or shouldn't be doing, and so completely robs the final save lives motivation of any real impact. How are we going to save lives? Stand on the street and look for the virus coming? It makes no sense. More than that, the act of changing the statement sent a message to the nation that things were getting less scary and that we could relax a little bit. This, looking at the infection rates and the death rates, was not, and at time of recording is not the case. This simpler and seemingly more appealing version of the slogan may have, probably will, result in more deaths than would have otherwise occurred. So, essentialization and vagary are two of the big problems of the paradox of appeal. But are there any more? Well, remember I mentioned earlier that the lowest common denominator is all about appealing to the maximum number of people possible. What if some of those people you're trying to appeal to have views too dangerous to be incorporated into your policy? What would that do to the parties that cater to them? Let's go back to our bin example from earlier. Say in a street of 100 people, two parties emerge. The pro-weekly fire party and the waste reduction party. Both have a plan for emptying the bins, one of them by burning them, one of them by producing less rubbish, and each party gets about 45 out of 100 votes each. This creates a tiebreak. There are 10 people left on the street who don't agree with either party. They believe that they should be allowed to burn rubbish whenever and wherever they want. So the pro-weekly fires party changes to the pro-fires party in order to win those votes. They win it, and the pro-fires party carries with their new policy. Now, people can burn whatever and wherever they want. This, as you can imagine, could cause some big problems for the street. And those problems were made possible because one of the moderate parties changed their stance to incorporate the more extreme viewpoint. This example is a very simplified version of a big problem with centrist politics that I think is probably the subject of an entire other video. A conversation about the Overton window is something we should definitely have at some point, but we'll leave that for another day. So, if we live in a society that reduces complex political discussions into soundbite in order to satisfy the paradox of appeal, which we do, what can we do about it? Much like our determination to remove willing ignorance that we discussed in the last video, the key here is to research those policies and parties much more deeply, to hear alternative viewpoints from different analysts and sources. The more we know, the more information we can aggregate, the more easily we can refute the people who have simply listened to the soundbites. A functioning and free press that is also willing to interrogate these parties is also an absolute necessity. We saw in the last UK election and in the government that formed after it, a trend that a government representative would make a claim like, "We'll hire 40,000 new nurses," and then run from the scrutiny on that statement. Our current Prime Minister even avoided several debates and interviews, notably the Channel 4 climate change debate and an Andrew Neil interview on the BBC. If policymakers are allowed to hide behind simple slogans and then from the press that would interrogate them, that allows those people a lot of free rein once in government. This is because avoiding political scrutiny is very much a thin end of the wedge situation. The more you do it, the less shocking it seems. This is especially true if you can construct a narrative in which you are right for avoiding them. If a person can avoid scrutiny by labelling those asking questions as unpatriotic, or ignore them and starve them of information so that their outlet becomes redundant, that person can find themselves in a fairly unassailable position of power. That's it, folks. That's the paradox of appeal video. This was a concept I first came across a few years ago, and I think it's really, really important to understanding modern soundbite politics, and very important when we talk about the next couple of videos, because the next episode, wait for it, is going to be the media buyers episode. I know I've been talking about it for like 10 episodes now, but we've finally got to it, and I think we've kind of done the groundwork that people can engage with that properly. It has often been said by historians that the real tragedy of history is that you have to start somewhere, and I can relate to that now, because there are so many things that I want to talk about on this channel, but we have to do the groundwork on them before they can be talked about. That can be pretty arduous because some of the groundwork is really boring and some of the topics are quite interesting. So I hope we are presenting them in a way that is interesting enough that people still enjoy this. I'm aware that the 5-episode and a taking stock episode system can result in a bit of feeling like the first few episodes are a bit of build-up, if you will, filler arc, if you're an anime fan. It's just unfortunately something that we're railing against, and I can't think of a better solution to it right now. So yeah, hopefully next episode I'll be able to tell you what the next series is going to be about, because we're thinking about that right now. But anyway, that's it for now. I hope this finds you well, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe. We really hope that you enjoyed that, and if you did, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe, because it's a huge benefit to the channel when you do.